It's a lazy Monday. Columbus Day in America, Thanksgiving in Canada. I'm Lawrence Presman, the Prez, co-founder of WagerTalk Media, owner of WagerTalk.com, SportsMemo.com, and the iconic Gold Sheet. Today's show, NFL Week 7 early look. Marco D'Angelo, the co-founder of WagerTalk, joining us, and I'm going to bring him in. Let's get to it. Marco, I'm wearing a baseball cap for the first time ever on air. What do you think? What do you think?
I'm guessing you had a rough night.
Is it that right there that suggests it?
Possibly.
I had an insane weekend, dude. But I did go 3-2 yesterday in NFL. Whoa!
All right. He's back.
Well, you know me. I mean, you've been seeing me do this for years and years. I am the streakiest handicapper ever. So I actually think now is a good time to play me because I've had the most horrific start in the NFL possible, but that's what NFL is like right there with hockey as my best sports, and it might be a good time to get on board. Anyway, dude, how did you do?
We're lost our big play yesterday on Jacksonville. Ugly play with them. We had a 5%. We did hit our other play of 4% on Denver. For the run, guys, for 5 weeks, Prez, we're sitting at 32-13 plus 58%. So I can't complain. We're up one game over 500 for the week in football, but a really good week in baseball. We've hit 3 of our last 4 or 4 of the last 5. We had Houston yesterday in extra inning victory, and so I can't complain. If my worst week in the last 5 is like a 4-3 week, that's pretty good.
Way to go, brother. Hey, I'm 7-1 these baseball playoffs.
Good job.
I got to play tonight too. I'm excited. Tonight's going to be fun. I got 2 TVs in the living room. One will be on baseball, one will be on football, and I will be riding my Peloton.
I could just picture that. No hockey tonight?
Most of the hockey games are going today.
Oh, that's right.
I sprinkled a little bit on the Boston Bruins to win in regulation at -135, but I didn't release it to the clients. Let's get to it, brother. NFL Week 7 early look. Let's start with Kansas City going into Denver, and Kansas City has lost 2 in a row. They don't look the same. Their offense looked good yesterday, but their defense is an absolute mess. I think this is a great matchup for them. I think it's a situation where, Denver is all defense and no offense, and Kansas City is going to put up points. I don't think Denver will be able to keep pace. My early look right now is Kansas City. It came out at 5.5 for a split second. It has dropped to 3.5 with a few threes on the board. This line surprises me, Marco. I think it's going to be 4 or more come opening kickoff. KC's a real public team. What do you think?
Well, Kansas City is a public team, Prez, but this is going to be one of those, and I'm sure when we do bet on it this week, but it's a Thursday game, we don't cover them. But if we did, you would be hearing Kelly scream, primetime home dog here, because Denver getting the points at home on a Thursday night game, short week of prep. Now, one thing I want to tell the viewers, we know that it's tough doing these Thursday night games for the prep. You've got to go on the road for these road teams. You got a short week. You lose a day for travel and everything. So it's a tough workout for them. But whenever it is a division game, it is actually easier than if it's a non-division game because you play that team twice a year. So your prep work is easier. You know what to expect. Whereas if you're playing somebody that you don't play maybe every other year or a couple years, or if you meet in the playoffs, it's a different story. But in this instance, the defense for Kansas City is the problem. And you're going to be looking at the Denver defense versus the Kansas City offense and vice versa. Which one's going to be able to get the upper hand? Kansas City, they have not clicked the way they have most of the time. Last 2 weeks, 13 points against Indianapolis, 24 points last week against Houston. Mahomes, not 100% with that ankle. And if he doesn't have his mobility, that takes away part of his game. Initial look, you said you saw a 5 for a brief moment. The look-ahead line was 4.5 at the Westgate before last week's games were played. And given the results of yesterday, I understand it moving down. I wouldn't be surprised if the Sharps get involved and take this to 3. But I agree with you. The public will take Kansas City, and that should keep it at the 3.5. I don't think it goes to 4, because the minute it goes to 4, the Sharps are going to grab Denver.
He's Marco D'Angelo, co-founder of WagerTalk.com. Arizona going into New York, playing the Giants. Arizona's won 2 in a row. Got a gift victory yesterday, but I mean, listen, they earned it. They really, really looked good offensively. Man, Kyler Murray, I think he was 75% pass completion. We know Atlanta's defense is porous. New York Giants defense really isn't that much better. I think Arizona's going to move the ball up and down. The line came out for, again, a hair at the Giants -1. It's now -2.5 to 3, a total of 49.5. I don't really have an opinion here. I mean, my gut tells me that the New York Giants, with a week off and only 1 game back on the division, I think we're going to get their best effort.
Yeah, the Giants not actually a week off, extended, because they played on Thursday. 10 days. They have 10 days in between.
They played New England.
Yes, they did. Daniel Jones, rough outing against the Patriots. And you know what? Belichick has had a history of making rookie quarterbacks look just like rookie quarterbacks. They get caught. They have that look on their face like a deer caught in headlights. And it showed. 15 of 31 in that game, just 161 yards. The Giants had 4 turnovers in that game against New England. Will they have that this week? No, because the Arizona defense is not good. And not only are they not good, they don't force any turnovers. This is a team that has no turnovers in the last 3 weeks and only 1 in the last 5.
I can explain that.
Good. And why is that?
Well, I haven't bet against them.
Yes, that is true. You are the turnover machine. Sitting at just 3 takeaways for the season, that's a little bit of a concern. Watch the injury reports and see the injuries to the Giants if they'll have all hands on deck. This is not the same team, obviously, without Barkley on there. He's listed as questionable for Sunday right now, given that they played on Thursday. Good chance he could be in the lineup this week. That would change things dramatically if he is, and if he's 100%, because then the Giants takes a lot of pressure off of Daniel Jones if they got that running game going. As far as Arizona goes, right now I don't have a firm opinion on this game, because Arizona, I'm impressed with what they're doing. This is a team that's buying into Cliff Kingsbury right now and what he's doing there. A lot of people question whether that college offense would work on the NFL level. It's worked so far, but let's face it, he's faced Cincinnati and Atlanta the last 2 weeks, 2 teams that are in total disarray right now, and we'll talk more about Atlanta later. Right now, I'm a pass. If you want to look at this one, if Barkley's not able to go, I know this is going to sound silly, but I actually like the over if he doesn't go, because you're going to see the Giants throwing the football more because they can't run the football, and that would have a tendency to go to the over. So, again, what's your injury report later in the week before you zero in on a play on this one?
I like the over in that game regardless. Marco, I think this game is juicy, man. Houston came out at -1. There's been obviously a ton of money. One of those reverse line moves, 61% of the tickets have been written on Houston, yet we have a -2 to Indy at Heritage and a pick 'em at bookmakers. So the line's a little bit all over the place. On a whole, it's -1, -1.5 to Indianapolis. And this is one of those typical questions, Marco, where Houston goes into Kansas City and wins the game. Why can't they go into Indianapolis and win? I mean, Indy is off of a bye, I get it, but I think Houston's one of the best teams in football.
Well, I think the reason you're seeing some of the migration to the Houston side rather than the Indianapolis side, and as you said, Indianapolis is coming off a bye week. They played the same team. Both teams played Kansas City in their last game. So the public's going to look and see, all right, Houston beat them 31-24, 7-point win. Kansas City beat them 19-13, a 6-point win. Both of them did it on the road. So what do you take away from that? They both won. Well, this is public looks at what they see with their eyes. And they see that Indianapolis only scored 19 points. They're going to look and say, well, Houston scored 31. That's more impressive. So that's why they're leaning to Houston. But honestly, Prez, if you look at it, I think Indianapolis's win was a little bit more impressive because I look at the backside of it. They only allowed 13 points to Kansas City. They were the first team this year that held them under 24 points. And we know what Kansas City can do and what they had how many games in a row where they had scored 24 or more points.
Or something, yeah.
Yeah, it was a ridiculous number. Given the extra week off and this being a division game and Houston having to play the second week in a row on the road, I think the advantages lie with Indianapolis, and their defense, in my opinion, is much better than Houston's. And if they can contain Deshaun Watson, who had a big game yesterday, he was 30 of 42 for 280 yards. And the big key was Houston was able to run the football, 41 carries for 192 yards. They're not going to get that kind of yardage against Indianapolis. And I've said it a gazillion times, Prez. When you can run the football successfully, you're going to make an average quarterback look good and make a good quarterback look great. And that's why Deshaun Watson put up big numbers the last 2 weeks. He threw for 426 against Atlanta, and he threw for 280 against KC. They had 166 yards rushing against Atlanta, 192 against KC. This comes down to the battle at the line of scrimmage, and I think Indianapolis wins that battle defensively, and it's going to force Houston to throw the football more than they want to, and that bothers me. Also, what bothers me, 3 turnovers yesterday, Houston. They still were able to overcome it and get the win, so that's impressive. But that's now 6 turnovers in the last 3 games. You cannot win turning the football over like that.
He's Marco D'Angelo. We're the Betting Edge, guys. The show is on our YouTube channel, WagerTalk TV, Monday to Friday. I also do Puck Time with all the hockey guys. No Puck Time today, as most of the games are 1 o'clock start. Marco, Buffalo, Miami, line came out at 17. There's a few 16.5s. I'm just going to tell everybody right now, if you're going to bet the under in this game, bet it immediately. It came out at 41. There's already 38.5s on the board. As we've seen with Miami, this team just cannot score. They're going to be lucky to put up 1 touchdown. I think Buffalo, Tennessee, San Fran, and New England have a defense in a different class to any other in the league right now. I think Miami's going to absolutely struggle. With that said, Buffalo's offense is no juggernaut. Minus 17, that's absurd to me. My early look right now is Miami in the under.
Yeah, I'm not probably going to get involved in the game itself. 16.5, 17 on Buffalo is a little bit ridiculous. The flip side to that is I agree with you on the under. That's the only way you can play this game. Miami can't score. We've seen that. They got 16 points yesterday. The last touchdown came late in the game to get them with close in that one. But they were playing, again, a team with no defense, Washington. Even with facing teams with no defenses, they haven't scored more than 16 points. Until yesterday, the highest total they had was 10. And you look at the Buffalo defense, they're for real. They have held every opponent to 17 points or less. And as you said, they've struggled scoring. They've got a bigger game next week with Philadelphia on deck at home. I think this is one of those games where Buffalo just goes in and tries to get in and get out with the win without having too much risking injuries. This is a team.
Marco's sex life. Get in, get out, risk injuries.
Oh, Prez. This is a spot where the under is the only way to go, and you're correct. The sharps are going to bet this under. When you see a total getting bet on Monday morning, that's not John Q. Public betting, especially an under. It's not John Q. Public betting. That's the sharp side. I agree with the under.
Let's skip the Minnesota-Detroit game. You'll get to it on Bet On It, and I'll get to it throughout the week. Same with the Oakland and Green Bay game, as Detroit's playing Green Bay tonight. Jacksonville -3 going into Cincinnati, and here we go again with the under, Marco. Early line came out 47.5. 83% of the tickets written to date are on the under. It's already dropped down to 43.5, 44. And I understand the move, man. I mean, you know, Cincy's always good for anywhere between 14 and 21 points. Jacksonville struggled to score yesterday, but people need to keep in mind they can't look at these weeks in isolation. Jacksonville has been able to put up some points. I'm for sure not going to be betting this game, and I don't even think I'm going to look at it much.
Well, to be honest with you, obviously I've got, a sour taste in my mouth given yesterday's result with Jacksonville. I thought they had a great spot yesterday to get a win. The Saints were coming off a couple big games in a row, going out on the road, playing outdoors and everything. When I was watching that game, and obviously because I had a big play, I was, glued to that game, watching every single play. As we got to the second half and the offense was just struggling for Jacksonville, and I was watching this prideful Jacksonville defense, I started to see we couldn't get off the field on third down. They'd make a couple plays, and then the Saints would convert a third down and keep a drive alive. And it looked to me like flashbacks to Blake Bortles, where the defense was getting frustrated of having to carry the team and the offense wasn't doing their share. And that's a bad situation. And that was a really bad loss for them yesterday. The problem with not blindly just, wanting to go against Cincinnati because they're a total train wreck, teams that are winless, they're dangerous. I know they're bad, but nobody wants to go winless, unless maybe you're the Dolphins and you're tanking and want to get that number one draft pick to draft another quarterback that you're going to ruin. This is a spot where Cincinnati's dangerous. We haven't seen any movement from the look-ahead line. It was 3. We're seeing 3s out there today because what are you going to do? Both teams lost yesterday once again. Both were anemic on offense. This one here is a pass for me, and sometimes, Prez, games like this where you say you're looking to the under, where two teams are in dire straits like they are, sometimes you get that over because it takes more effort to play defense than it does to play offense. That's in any sport. The offensive players know what they're going to do. The defensive players, everything is reaction. And if you're not in the right frame of mind with your team, I think you see those lapses more on the defensive end than you do the offensive end. And we know Cincinnati has weapons. That's the thing. Cincinnati, Andy Dalton can put up numbers. It just hasn't transpired this way so far. The one concern about Cincinnati, and would lean towards the under, is they cannot stop the run at all. They gave up 266 yards to Arizona on the ground, and they gave up 269 to Baltimore on the ground. That's not good. Jacksonville, if they can get the ground game going, they could turn a lot of yardage and turn some clock. So right now, this is one I'm staying away from for the moment. Maybe I'll have more later in the week, but these are two teams that are going just south.
Marco D'Angelo, 32-13 in his last 5 weeks, including a 7-4 start in the baseball playoffs. Guys, you can get a month of his plays for only $225. MD225. That's MD225. And the MD stands for Marco D'Angelo.
You figured it out.
Pretty deep, huh?
Yeah.
Rams Atlanta. Rams have lost 3 in a row, Marco. First time ever under Sean McVay. They just looked. I mean, the Rams was my big play yesterday. And it wasn't that I don't believe in San Fran. I mean, I think San Fran's defense has played outstanding. Granted, up until yesterday, they hadn't played a world-class offense. I watched the game, and I didn't understand the play calling from the Rams. It feels to me like they just aren't making adjustments to teams that have made adjustments. They're still running Woods across the back with that, I don't know what, the sweep handoff scenario. They're running their running backs inside of the tackles. They're not playing to the outside of the field. This Jared Goff is an absolute mess right now. With that said, if you have an anemic offense and you need some more cowbells, you know that reference?
That's a new one for me.
Yeah, it's from Saturday Night Live, you know, Christopher Walken, I need more cowbells, and Will Ferrell's amazing skit. Anyway, if you need some medicine to an ailing offense, play Atlanta. Bottom line here, guys, if you're going to bet the over, bet it immediately. ASAP, 52.5 it came out. There's 54s on the board. I like the over in this game, Marco. I mean, we already have seen with Atlanta last 2 weeks in a row, they've been able to go out there and put points up. This team can't stop anyone. I don't know what to do sidewise. My initial reaction is over.
Well, this situation with Atlanta, they are almost into unbettable territory. This team is just in total disarray. I can't put my finger on it. Dan Quinn, the seat can't be getting any hotter for him right now. This is a team that just is a couple years removed from a Super Bowl, Prez. And honestly, I don't think they've ever recovered from blowing that lead against New England. My concern here is, and this is something you can follow in your handicapping tips and references, you'll be able to use it later in the year several times. Teams that are done, and let's face it, Atlanta's done. Their season's over. Losing yesterday for the 4th time in a row and losing to Arizona.
And the way they lost.
You could just stick a fork in them. It's over. But there will be a few spots on the schedule where they're going to get up for games. Games will be like if they're on a Monday night or a Thursday night or a Sunday night game. Teams don't like to be embarrassed there. They're going to come to play on those type of games. A big division matchup where they could play spoiler. That's where you'll get a good effort. And I think you'll get one here because they're facing the NFC Super Bowl team from last year. After that, man, I don't know that you can find spots to take them. But I don't want any part of them because of that defense. They cannot stop anybody. 34 points to Arizona, 53 points to Houston. They have given up their least amount of points they've allowed this year was 20 points, and that was that Sunday night game against Philadelphia. If you're betting the game, looks like the only way you can bet this is the over. But I got to question the Rams right now. Jared Goff, it takes 2 teams to get an over, Prez. That's the problem. You know, you can get away with an under with one dominant defense. You can't hit a total in the 50s without 2 teams doing their job. And we need the Rams to do something. Their passing game yesterday, 13 of 24 for 56 yards. That's horrendous. They couldn't get the running game going either. The situation there, Todd Gurley was out. I can't back the Rams right now. And that was a great spot for them yesterday. I agreed with you 100%. I didn't use it on my premium plays, but that was my best bet from the Bet On It show. I thought they were in a perfect spot to get the 49ers off that Monday night win. So if you're playing it, I agree with the over, but I think there are some better plays on the card.
I don't understand why the Rams aren't running wheel routes and sweeps and screens. I just, if you've got a quarterback that is really struggling with accuracy, why are you not throwing the ball 5 yards in front of him? Anyway, San Fran, the team we were just talking about, now they find themselves as a huge road favorite. Going into Washington, they're minus 9.5. The over and under is 41.5. And, I look at this on our show, NFL Week 7 early look, and I think Washington's the play here, Marco. I think, I don't want to be the guy that is like betting against San Fran week in and week out. And I've only bet against San Fran once, and that was this past week with the Rams. This is just a really tough spot for San Fran. Another road game after a monster division rivalry game with more big games in front of them. Washington has to feel at least a little good. They put a win up on the board. This is way too big a line. I like the under, and I like Washington, but who knows if I'll get to the window with it.
Well, Prez, the look-ahead line was 8.5, and then we see the line at 9.5, and rightfully so. San Francisco, after that dominating Monday night performance, you would have expected a letdown, and it didn't come. They were facing their division rival, the team that everybody expected to win the division going into this season. So they came back and played another great game, and they absolutely manhandled the Rams. Now you're asking a team that's played back-to-back huge games, that Monday night game and then yesterday, to keep it up for a third week in a row. From a situational standpoint, there is no question this is the best spot to go against them. Now, do you want to do that with a Washington Redskin team that, let's face it, they've got problems? They fired their coach already. The Callahan's the interim. He gets that win. They had to hold on for dear life to end up getting that win yesterday. You got to look at it and say, hey, what are they going to do against this team? But you look at the equalizer being, will they have that letdown, San Francisco? I don't think they do, because there's some history with, the coach of San Francisco and being at Washington before and such. I think this is a spot where they keep their foot on the gas. Do I want to lay 9.5 on the road? Probably not, but I'll put out the warning there. If he gets a chance to run it up, they will. That's all I can tell you, and maybe we'll find a better spot down the road. But the San Francisco 49ers right now are for real. And Prez, it's like a breath of fresh air. They're doing it old school style. It's not putting up huge numbers on the passing game. It's doing it with a strong running game and using your tight ends and, moving the chains and killing the clock. It's refreshing to see an old style football winning in the NFL right now. And I like what the 49ers are doing. And that defense, so far, they're for real. What they've done, they are absolutely for real. Hard to go against them. Might want to look at the under in this one, Prez. That's one to look at. We've seen the number take a little bit of a drop. And again, as I said, you're not seeing the John Q. Public betting unders at the beginning of the week. When you see somebody betting an under on Monday, that is the sharps, and you got to respect that. So I'll go ahead and look at that, and that's where we're at on this one. But again, like I said, the Shanahans have they have a distaste for Washington. That's a spot where, they get the chance, they'll run it up.
Marco, one of the most fascinating games on the board, the Chargers versus Tennessee. And Tennessee, I think they've scored one touchdown in 2 games. They're 5-1 to the under. This team is anemic to the point of no return. They now have a quarterback controversy. It's either a piece of poo or a piece of diarrhea. So who knows which piece of crap they're going to put in. But the Chargers interest me too, Marco, because, here's a team where every year it's the same thing. The first 6 games are a disaster, and then they win 10 in a row. I don't know if that's going to happen this year. Phillip Rivers looks completely out of sorts. He doesn't look confident. His body language is terrible. He's making bad decisions. He's making bad throws. The Chargers keep going down. I think they're down 38-0 in the last 2 first halves. But, hey, if you're only going to score 6 points and win a game, play Tennessee.
Yeah, the Tennessee, that was an ugly game yesterday. You don't see shutouts in the NFL anymore. Very seldom does that happen, and they were never close to scoring.
I don't even remember them in the red zone.
They had trouble getting across the field. Okay.
I was on the under in that game. It was one of my wins, and I watched that game. And the crazy thing is, I had 3 games going on at the same time, and I actually kept forgetting to look at the Tennessee game. It was so slow. Nothing. I'd look up. It'd be like 1st and 10 from the Tennessee 32. Tennessee has the ball. I'd look up like 5 minutes later, and it was like 3rd and 8 from the 34. Like nothing happened in this game.
Yeah, and that's why you saw the quarterback get yanked. The last 4 games, Prez, 3 of the 4 games they've been held to 7 points or less. That's not good, obviously. The Chargers, yesterday was a disgrace. I was happy with that. Steeler hat on. They looked past Pittsburgh. I think the fact that they had the Steelers actually going with the 4th string quarterback, that's where he was on the depth chart when the season started. And they just figured they had to show up and win. And now that's surprising for a team that was coming off a loss. You would expect that if the Chargers were coming off a big win the week before and to look past the Steelers. But to lose to Denver the week before and come in there on a Sunday night, national TV audience, and play as poorly as they did, and you could see it 5 minutes into the game. You just watched the players, the hitting in that game. Pittsburgh wanted that game way more than the Chargers did. The Chargers, I don't know what game plan they had. And the head coach, Anthony Lynn, this guy, there's a couple coaches in the NFL right now that they are, when you're figuring power ratings, most matchups, I take a point off for them, and when we get to Cleveland, we talk about Cleveland might be on the bye this week. They're another team. Freddie Kitchens is in way over his head as a head coach. This is a spot where I think you're going to see a good effort out of the Chargers, but the fact that Tennessee has had 2 stink bombs in a row makes it tough for me to look at. This will be a spot where, depending where this line goes, we're sitting at 1 right now. If Tennessee gets up to 1.5 or 2, this is a no-brainer for me. I will use the Chargers as a teaser with the 6-point teaser to get them over the touchdown, because this is one of those games that I think that you could tease either way. If either team was a 1.5, 2-point favorite, you would tease the dog in this game, and I think you would feel confident. I feel more confident in the Chargers because they have more offensive weapons than Tennessee. To get them over the touchdown. So that's the way I'll be looking at this game for right now, is take the Chargers on a teaser. At 1, you got to use a 6.5-point teaser and lay a little more juice. So I'll kind of hang out and see if we get that to 1.5 and then grab it with the 6.
MD225, everybody. That's the coupon code for a month of Marco's bets. That month will include baseball, college football, NFL, and a few days of the National Basketball Association. MD225. Marco, Seattle, this team is so impressive for non-impressive reasons, in the sense that they don't really have a world-class running back. Tyler Lockett is their best wide receiver. their third string wide receiver, I don't even know their name. Do they even have a tight end? They've lost half of the Legion of Doom, and yet they keep plucking along, man. I mean, I did not think Seattle was going to do anything. One of my losers yesterday was on Cleveland. 4 turnovers, but that's how I roll, baby. I mean, yeah, but I get it. You know, Marco, I get it. Listen, people don't like narcissistic Prez, but when you're as handsome as me, successful as me, when you have a sex life like I do, when you drive cars like I drive, God's got to do something. So he gives me turnovers.
And Prez wonders why he gets
that's a good look right there
on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, but Prez walks into it, baby. I asked for it. Bring it.
You do, my man. You know what? Seattle, you cannot take anything
it's
away
unbelievable.
From this is the best 5-1 club that is doing it with basically minimal talent. The one thing that they have, and it's 2 words, Russell Wilson. If right now, to me, he is the clear-cut MVP this year in the NFL. Okay. If you take him off this team, where are they at? They don't win half of the games.
I don't disagree with you, Marco, but I mean, Pete Carroll has showed himself to be an absolute genius. And I'm not going to put it past the man that he can't come up with a game plan that puts them at 3-2 instead of 5-1 without RW. But yeah, I'm with you, dude. I mean, Russell Wilson is all world right now. What do you like in this one, man? A huge total at 50.5 for 2 teams that are really going to run the ball.
That's what you would think on paper. I was surprised at that total myself, because when you think of Seattle and you think of Baltimore and you think of a few years ago, these were 2 of the best defenses in the NFL, and that's not the case anymore. Baltimore, the one thing I will say, Seattle has had success the last 2 weeks in running the football.
Yeah.
167 yards against the Rams and then 170 against Cleveland. They're not going to do that against Baltimore. There's only been 2 teams that have rushed for over 100 yards against Baltimore this year. So Seattle's not going to be able to have that luxury. What they need to do, and Baltimore's good at doing this, they need to keep a linebacker at home to be in that spy position to blanket Russell Wilson, because that is what killed Cleveland yesterday. He had some runs yesterday, Prez, that as big and slow as I am, I would have got yardage too, because what was happening is all of the Cleveland defenders were dropping back in coverage and had their backs to the backfield and not watching Russell Wilson. And when they had good coverage in the back, that he couldn't throw to anybody, once he broke that first line of containment, there was 20-yard gap before there was anybody there.
The over and under of you getting more than 1 yard on that 20-yard gap would be minus 240.
Dude, have you ever seen me when they bring out the fresh plate of crab legs at the buffet at the Bellagio? Dude, I can get from my table to the front of that line in whatever the 40 is. I can sprint. I can't go distance, but man, I can get to the front of that line for the fresh plate of crab legs. So don't underestimate me, Prez.
I don't even like crab legs. Lobster and crab make no sense to me. They literally taste like plastic.
Oh my God, dude! You dip that in hot butter.
Yeah, so why don't you just drink the butter?
Oh, dude.
Oh, actually, I don't want to give you any ideas. Don't drink butter.
I will.
New Orleans, Chicago, Marco.
Well, I didn't actually say who I liked here. I like Baltimore. They might want to know who I like. I lean to Baltimore.
He leans to Baltimore. New Orleans, Chicago came out at 4. It's -3 to Chicago. Over and under has stayed on 38.5, and that's where I'm looking. I'm looking at under the total here, Marco. New Orleans' defense has shown themselves to be all world right now, and we know how good Chicago's defense is. I just think Chicago's going to struggle to move the ball as they have most of the year. And while New Orleans is playing an extremely conservative style offense, my initial early look is under.
My initial early look is Chicago. And again, full disclosure, I went against New Orleans yesterday. If you would have told me before the game, Prez, and I came to you and said to you, I will let you bet the New Orleans-Jacksonville game, and I will give you one team score. The Saints have 13 points in the game. How do you want to bet it? You would bet your lungs on Jacksonville if they.
Yeah, my lungs are pretty shit.
Well, you know what? Still, you would have wanted all the money you could get on Jacksonville, because if they held the Saints to 13 points, you figure you win the ball game. Yes, the Saints defense is playing well right now, holding Jacksonville to 6, holding Dallas to 10. Tampa got 24 against them. But let's face it, the last 3 teams they've played, Dak Prescott is struggling mightily right now for the Cowboys. Jameis Winston is a train wreck. Did you see his performance in London yesterday?
I did.
That was horrible. He's a turnover machine. And then yesterday, finally, Gardner Minshew looked like an inexperienced quarterback for the first time yesterday. He was clueless out, whether that was, him having a bad game or the Saints having a good game defensively. He did connect on 22 of 30, but he had he had an interception in the game, and really, I'm not buying into the Saints yet. I think they've been more a product of their schedule. And this will be the first time Teddy Bridgewater, since taking over, has faced a tough defense. I mean, the Bears' defense is as good as it gets. And we've seen what they've been able to do this year. I'm going to go, with the exception of the London game, and we're just going to blame that on being in London. I'm going to go ahead and take Chicago off the bye against the Saints. I'm not buying it. I'm a big fan of Teddy Bridgewater, but I'm not buying it. I'm going with the Bears. The Saints can get me 2 weeks in a row.
I like the Eagles here, Marco.
This is, boy, I tell you what, the Dallas Cowboys, I just don't know what to make of this.
How can Jason Garrett still be the coach of this team?
Only thing I could figure is he's got some incriminating pictures.
No, I think
Jones.
I think Jerry Jones appreciates the fact that both of them are lobster-faced.
Oh, Prez.
I don't know. There has to be a reason.
I can't. I've asked that question for the last several years.
I mean, one could argue that Jason Garrett's mother met Jerry Jones 52 years ago, had a little soiree, and kept in touch with him. And like Harry and the Royals, everyone thinks the guy's got a different father.
Well,
I don't know.
That's a theory. That's a theory. We can run with that.
There it is. It's his illegitimate son.
Let's put it in this context. Did you happen to see a couple guys sent it out on Twitter yesterday? It was a shot of the Dallas Cowboy players coming off the field.
I did not.
After a series. And Jason Garrett, he's out there, putting his hand out to, tap guys, high five him or whatever coming off the field, good series, whatever. And the players just walked right by him. They left him hanging. And that's not a good sign. If if they're starting not to respect the coach and not buying into what he's doing, when you have those kind of problems internally, that's not a team you want to be betting. Now, this is a big division game. So you're going to have their attention. I just can't back them. Philadelphia got manhandled yesterday, but they got manhandled by a good defense.
And Carson threw a bunch of interceptions too, which is rare.
3 turnovers yesterday. This is a spot where my initial gut reaction would be to agree with you with Philadelphia. But when you have these division games, this is the gut check time for Dallas. If they lose this game and lose 4 in a row, this season could spiral out of control. So I'm telling you, you will get the best effort out of Dallas this week. Is that going to be enough to carry them? And looking at the line from the opening line, the look-ahead line was 2.5, and now it's 3, and both teams lost yesterday. And, yeah, Philadelphia looked worse in losing by the final score. They lost by 18. But does it get any worse than losing to the Jets? Yeah, Darnold was back, but he hadn't played all year. He played the first week of the season, and he had mono. How effective was he supposed to be? And he completes 23 of 32 for 326. That's scary. For me, I'm looking at it, and if this thing dips below the 3, if it goes back to 2.5, you know where I'm at. You got the other half of the teaser. You got Philadelphia over the touchdown, which would be the right way to go.
MD225, everybody. MD225. That's the coupon code. Head over to WagerTalk. Get 1 month of Marco D'Angelo's plays for $225. Dude's on a 32-13 run. I like the over in the Jets game. I understand, Marco. I mean, I think New England has allowed 48 points. 48 points in 6 games. That is Ray Lewis, Trent Dilfer, Raven style defensive numbers. They have not played a juggernaut on offense yet. The Jets aren't that juggernaut. But I don't know, Marco. My gut is telling me we're going to get over the total in this one.
All right, Prez. My gut, I'm going to play devil's advocate with you and point out 2 things. It's a Monday night game. The public is going to bet the over. They always do.
Yeah, they're not going to bet it yet, though, Marco.
No, they're not going to bet it yet. But the situation is, this is a second meeting. These 2 have already played. And this is going to be the thought process from the people that look at this game. They're going to say, okay, the over-under right now, we're looking at 42.5, 43. They already played this year. What was the score? Okay, at New England, it was 30-14. The total was 43, and it went over 44. So if they could get to the 43 in New England, and that was without Sam Darnold, now we have Sam Darnold, the better quarterback. The Jets offense will get more than 14 points in this game if they could get 14 with the hobos they had quarterbacking the first game. The public's going to bet the over with that thinking, and that's going to be the wrong thinking because New England's going to come to play. New England knows it's Darnold and not, whoever they can line up that was healthy enough to be behind center for them in that last game. They're going to come with a focus. And the fact that the Jets surprised Dallas last week, New England will not look past them. A lot of times teams that already beat a team in the first meeting can look past the team, but not a Bill Belichick team. He comes to play every week. His team is focused every week. That's why they're the best point spread team, in the NFL over the last 10, 15 years.
In history.
Yeah. So don't be running to the window for that over in this game.
I only run when there's crab legs.
There you go, buddy. I'm going to sit back and hope that the public takes this up a little bit more. And I'll be looking at the under on Monday night with the Jets and New England.
He's Marco. I'm the Prez. That's the betting edge with the Prez. It's the NFL early look. You can catch the 2 of us doing this style of show every single Monday. Puck Time is back tomorrow, guys. So is the college football betting show with Dave Koken and Teddy. I wish everybody a happy Columbus Day. I don't know exactly what you're celebrating. I guess you're celebrating Columbus, or maybe it's the city of Columbus, or it's the guy who
discovered it and found. He come over on the boat. He found America. Come on, Prez.
Yeah, okay. It's Thanksgiving in Canada Day. I don't even know. I mean, the general joke is that Canadians give thanks for not being American. That's what our Thanksgiving is. That's not me. I love America. Americans are the greatest people on the planet. except for a few of you who make terribly bad comments on YouTube, you're even greater because you make my day. In all seriousness, Marco, the show's over, so we can now have a teeny weeny bit of small talk. There are people who want to bash their head against the wall when they listen to me on these shows, and I take a ton of pleasure when I read that. I don't know if that's a sign of that. I don't know if that's a sign of me as a negative human being or me as a narcissistic bastard who thinks, oh my God, I can elicit such rage and anger out of a human being that they actually want to bash their head against the wall. Dude, that is pretty cool.
Prez, comments on YouTube, Twitter's the best. I love Twitter. Guys, there are people out there, Prez, that literally watch our type of shows that I think want to just root against us. So the minute we're wrong on something, they're right in our timeline, throwing it in our face. I had a guy bashing me on Saturday from the Bet On It show. I lost a play, and he's telling me how bad of a play it was, this and that, and everything.
Yeah, that sounds like Dino.
Yeah. In the situation, and I'm like, did you watch the whole show? You do realize I went 4-1 in that show, but you're here making an ass out of yourself talking about my one loser.
The craziest thing to me is that these are like grown adults. I mean, I have watched a lot of shitty movies and listened to a lot of shitty music and watched a ton of crappy YouTube videos in my time. I have never been compelled to write a negative comment ever. Like, ever. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, we're giving out free content and you have the free choice to not watch the damn show.
Well, it is America here. We have free speech, so everybody is entitled to an opinion, but, just don't be, Nelly negative, just looking for the bad and everything. If you're going to call out the bad, call out the good. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not with Marco there, guys. If you want to write bad shit up on YouTube about me, bring it on, man. Like, it gives me incredible pleasure to know that I can elicit such reaction out of you. Marco, I love you. You're the best damn business partner I've ever had, except for two others. And
well, it's good. It's good to know that it's a small group.
And dude, I mean, we've got another business partner that puts the two of us to shame.
Well, everybody has, their niche in life, and some of us are, we all do what we do well. We have our own,
and that's what makes a great team.
That's what makes it work. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the great thing is, you and I know, in all seriousness, to just step back and let the great JD do his thing. And that's to our credit, Marco. I mean, it creates a lot. There's a lot of talent in allowing someone else to do all the heavy lifting.
You know what? I told JD this. I've known JD forever. Okay, I've known him obviously before the WagerTalk days. I knew him before the last place I was at days as well. Johnny and I go way back, and I've always told him, "You're the son I never had." And I love the guy. We, like anybody else, we have our moments. Sometimes we disagree, but we always get to the right answer, and it's good. So it's a great team. What we have in place here and the things that we've done in the last 12 months, Prez, blows my mind. I mean, just absolutely blows my mind. The Bet On It show crossed 50,000 views this week.
Yeah, well, we know you're getting to over 100,000 by the end of the year. Marco, you're the dad I never wanted. See you all tomorrow.